Hey! Hope everyone is having a great day. Today I will be summarizing an action, drama, history movie called The Woman King. The Woman King is based on real historical events set in the early 1820s in West Africa. Let's get started and please enjoy. The film begins with Flair. A group of men lounge at the center of a field by a campfire. They hear rustling in the tall grass, but they see a flock of birds fly away on a breeze. Suddenly a menacing Naniska, the world-weary Agojie general, emerges from the grass armed with a machete. An entire platoon then appears behind her. They slaughter the soldiers before coming across the captured villagers and freeing them. In the morning, the Agojie mourn their dead and escort the captives back home. The warriors return home before more Oyo arrive. The Agojie are a feared group of skilled warriors of the Dahomey kingdom consisting of only women. After the thrilling opening battle scene, we then shown the kingdom of Dahomey, a great big city. The Agojie are seen making their way back to the palace. Everyone bows their heads down as it is forbidden to look at the Agojie warriors. We are introduced to a young woman, Nyawi. She is brought to a man who would marry her, even though he is much more older and brutish. When Nyawi doesn't respond to the man, he slaps her, and she responds by pushing him hard enough for him to fall over. This angers him and he refuses to marry her. Nyawi's father, who is frustrated with his obstinate daughter's refusal to marry her many suitors, brings her to the Agojie and offers her to the king. She is taken in by an Agojie soldier, Agojie. Later on, Oyo soldiers, led by General Oba Ade, come across the corpses of their comrades. Oba Ade insults his warriors for letting their fellow soldiers get murdered by women, and they plan their next move against Dahomey. Gezo, the king of Dahomey kingdom, addresses his council to discuss the Oyo threat and how the Oyo are constantly shifting their boundaries to the land of Dahomey. It is clear that the Dahomey have been under the control of the Oyos for a long time, but this time around the Oyo have overstepped and have entered the land of Dahomey. Naniska also brings up the slave trade and says it casts a dark shadow on their kingdom to be selling off their own people. She proposes that they deal in gold or palm oil for trading. King Gezo tells Naniska to show him how much palm oil they can produce before he makes his decision. Naniska's right-hand woman Amenza addresses the new Agojie recruits, telling them they will fight and potentially die for their kingdom. If they can't handle that, they should leave. Several women leave, but a large group, including Nyawi, choose to stay. Agojie then tells Nyawi to go bathe, so she does, and speaks personally to Naniska. The women begin their training. Nyawi does not understand why they begin with ropes, feeling she should start with a bladed weapon, until Naniska allows her to try a blade on a wood statue to decapitate it. The sword is too heavy for Nyawi, and she can't decapitate the wooden statue. Naniska takes the blade and chops the head off with one swing. At night, Agojie speaks to Nyawi, telling Nyawi her own story about how her mother allowed men to abuse her until she fought back and ran away. Later on, the women continue training later on by running, firing rifles, and learning combat skills. Nyawi plays a prank where she had some gunpowder in the wooden statue, which sets off a small explosive when the statue is hit. She takes the blame for it as Naniska chastises her for it. Later, Agojie tells Nyawi about how Naniska's deeds are considered legendary since she rose up to her ranks after being a captive left for dead. Amenza visits Naniska in her hut. Naniska tells Amenza about her dreams. Using special nuts, Amenza tells Naniska that she sees somebody from her past coming back for her. Outside, Naniska watches as Nyawi practices her sword-wielding skills on one of the statues. In the later sequence, the Oyo arrive at the kingdom's gates for a confrontation with King Gezo. When Oba Ade steps forward, Naniska becomes horrified as she gets some terrible flashback of when she was a captive of the Oyos. She was repeatedly raped by Oba Ade. They order tributes and demand 40 Agojie warriors, but King Gezo only allows 20. Naniska tells Amenza that her vision was true. At the same time, Portuguese settlers arrive in Africa, led by Captain Santo Ferreira and his friend Malik, the latter whose mother was Dahomey. When Malik sees the captured natives, he feels horrified. The men join the scene as the Agojie confront the Oyo. Naniska says they will not give them tributes and instead delivers Oba Ade the severed heads of his men. A fight breaks out between the Naniska and Oba Ade, as the rest of the Agojie flees, wherein Nyawi runs back to block the gate as more Oyo warriors were about to run out. After they escape, Naniska chews Nyawi out for it, but Amenza privately tells Naniska that it was she who deviated from the plan, as she was more concerned with killing Oba Ade.